Hey guys, it's Phil from Lack of Sack here, bringing you my White Hope trial deck. So this deck is based on Tama, the main character from the show, who likes to scream "Butter!" at the top of her lungs. So whenever you must play this deck, you must also scream "Butter!" at the top of your lungs. So, this is for the new game WIXOSS. There's a game we just started in our local community. So I guess we're like the first English community to start this game. Hopefully. So let's get on to the deck profile, right? So a game of WIXOSS is made of two decks. You have your Rake deck, which is like an extra deck in Yu-Gi-Oh! Or the Hyperspatial Zone in Duel Masters. And you've also got your main deck. The main deck must be made of 40 cards. However, the Rake deck can have up to 10 cards for a total of 50 cards in your deck. The starter decks come with 48 cards. I don't know why they come with 48 cards, but I guess they want you to buy some packs to complete your Rake deck, because the Rake deck is only 8 cards. So let's get to it, right? So your starting Rake is New Moon Miko, Tama Yorihime, or Tama. I like to call her small balls because she's like the smallest balls you can have, and then you grow. So in this game, you start with a level 0 Rake, just like you would start with a level 0 starting Vanguard in Cardfight Vanguard. For a quick refresher, color of the card, yellow. You got your level of your card, right now you're level 0. The limit is the total size of all the Signy that you can play. And right now this limit is 0, so obviously you can't play anything because you just started the game. And then down here is your cost, if you can barely see it. And cost is 0. Of course, why would she cost anything, right? So just like in Vanguard, you can evolve your Rake, or in this case it's called growing. So it's kind of like riding the Vanguard, whereas I like to say grow the Rake. So this is the first card in the Tama chain. So it's the first one, New Moon Miko, Tama Yorihime. There's a derpy version, which I also very much like. So level 1, Tama Yorihime, Waxing Half Moon Miko. No, Waxing Crescent Moon Miko. So she's level 1, her limit is 2, and again she costs nothing to grow because this is obviously your first turn, so you probably wouldn't have much energy to grow to her anyways. So moving on. You're level 2, Tama Yorihime, Half Moon Miko. Level 2, limit of 5, and this one actually has a grow cost of 1 white energy. So it's pretty cool. It's pretty cheap and very vanilla. All these cards are vanilla, as you can see in this series. All vanilla. Nothing really to expect. After all, it is a trial deck, so you come to expect nothing but vanillas. Moving on, you're level 3. Tama Yorihime, Waxing Crescent Moon Miko. Right? Nope. Okay. This one is actually Waxing Gibbous Moon Miko. I don't know. I call her. Let's see. A moon has 4 phases, right? You got your half moon, crescent moon, half moon, 75% moon. I don't know what it's called, but I guess we'll call her that. The 75% moon Miko, Tama Yorihime. Level 3, limit 8. This one costs 2 whites to grow, so probably want to be careful with your energy around this time. And again, very vanilla, doesn't have anything. And then the final part of the Tama chain, this one actually has a translation. Tama Yorihime, Priestess of the Full Moon, or Full Moon Miko. Tama Yorihime, level 4, limit 11, and she actually has a grow cost of 3, and in fact where if you have a Romeo helmet armor on your field, all your Signy gain 2000 power. This during both players' turns, which allows you to have offense and defense, which is really awesome for his deck. So then the last 3 cards of the Rake deck are all arts. So we'll start with the first art, Avon. There's an art that costs 3 whites to cast, and you can only use it during your main phase. If you do, you search your deck for 2 white Signy, reveal them, add them to your hand, then you shuffle your deck. Pretty self-explanatory. 3 whites is relatively cheap for a Search 2 cost, and this deck just tutors like no tomorrow, as you'll see. And then we have the best card in the deck, Baroque Defense. 2 white energy as the cost. You can use it during the attack phase, and if you do, one of your opponent's Rake or Signy cannot attack during this turn. So that's pretty cool. This thing essentially shuts your opponent's Rake down if you don't have a card to guard it in your hand, or it can shut down one of your opponent's Signy if you have like maybe one life cloth and you take one hit and then the other one can't hit you and then just guard the last one. And then of course the last card in the arts deck is Rococo Boundary. This costs 3 whites, 2 colorless, and it's used during the main phase. This is obviously a game finishing card. It's used during the main phase. You return 2 of your opponent's Signy to their hand. So what you do is, this is basically your final move. You pay 5 energy, bounce 2 of their Signy back to their hand, and then swing for game, hopefully. If they have like 2 life cloth. No, if they have like no life cloth, you swing for game, because you can't guard a Signy attack. Or if they have like 1 life cloth, you just put 2 down anyways, swing 1 and hope that they don't have a life burst and win, you know. So that's the Rake deck. 40 is an 8 card Rake deck. I don't know why they don't give you a full 10 card Rake deck, but I guess that's how they get you to buy more boosters, right? Not that you'd want to compete with just this anyways, but this is a very stable trial deck, and I'll explain why after we go through the main deck. So the main deck, start with, so obviously the Rake deck and the main deck are separate. So the main deck contains the Signy, which are like monsters or units in Vanguard that you would call. So start. In this deck there are 4 Bonya the small bow. So this card on play looks at the top 3 cards of your deck, and you put them back in any order you want. So you're essentially modifying your next turn's draw along with anything else that might be on top. Level 1, 1000 power, and it's a white card, so you tell it's white up here. So that's pretty cool. Most of the time you just go turn 1, put this down. If you start first, you put it down and be like, okay, check the top 3, cool, rig them, and then you can kill this, and then it'll just go energy. So it's like an essential free peek at the top 3 cards of your deck. Next we have 1, 2, 3, 4 Kukuri Small Sword Kukuri, level 1 vanilla, 3000 power. Not much to say here, just put her down and beat something down, or like suicide into something. Pretty cool. And then we play 1, 2, 3, 4 copies of Servant O. Servant O is level 1 Signy, but 2000 power. It has a life burst, where if you trigger this from your life cloth, you can enter charge 1 from the top of your deck. While it's in your energy zone, this counts as all colors, so this is like a wild card, or an card wild, whatever. And then it also has guard, which allows you to discard this card where your opponent's Rake is attacking you. You can discard this and nullify the opponent's Rake attack. Essentially like a perfect guard in Vanguard, but much cheaper because they're available in even the trial decks and are pretty much staple in every deck. So level 1 and colorless. However, multi-energy makes it the equivalent of every single color. And I'll explain why this is important later. Moving on to level 2s, we play 1, 2, 3, 4 copies of Flamber Medium Sword. So Flamber is 7000 vanilla, level 2, and not much else to say. White, I guess. I play 1, 2, 3, 4 copies of Servant D. Servant D is again another card with guard, as you might be able to see from right here. Again, the life burst isn't anything much, just enter charge 1 off the top of your deck, and it counts as all energies when it's in the energy zone. Colorless, level 2, 5000 power, but I don't see why you would call this on the field unless you were pushing for a game and you were sure you could win. It's kind of like calling 10k shields in Vanguard. I don't know why you would do it. Anyways, moving on to level 3s. Play 1, 2, 3, 4 copies of Turret Gauntlet. So this is what I like to call the troll card. So when she comes into play, so this is the only one that doesn't have a translation. Figures. So when she comes in, she's a level 3, 7,000 power. When she comes into play, you can pay 1 white energy. If you do, you search your deck for 1 Romeo the Helmet Armor, which is this card, Romeo the Helmet Armor. You add to your hand. Essentially setting up your next turn play, because the time you play this is a level 3, so you're probably on the level 3 Tama by that time. And since the level 4 Tama requires Romeo the Helmet Armor to function fully, then this is like you set up and be like, yeah, what's up. She also has an awesome life burst ability of drawing 1 if you trigger her from the life cloth zone. So your opponent's like attack, you're like reveal. Ooh, cool. I get an energy and I get to draw a card. And that's when you make that troll face, just like her. I play 4 copies of Caliburn Great Sword, level 3, 10,000 power vanilla, the strongest vanilla you have in this deck. Not much to say, but it's really helpful if you just want to beat something down. 10,000 vanillas are very helpful. Moving on to level 4s, I play 1, 2, 3, 4 copies of the Romeo Helmet Armor. Now this card has a constant ability where if she's on the field, during the opponent's turn, all Signy on your side gain 1,000 power. And at 12,000 power and level 4, it includes herself. So if she is on the field by herself, she's already 13. Since you're at level 4, since this is a level 4 Signy, you're probably on the level 4 Tama, which gives 2,000 power to all your white Signy if you have this card on the field. So essentially she becomes 13 plus 2, 15k by herself. You have 2 of these on the field, you'd be like, what's up, I'm 16k. And practically nothing in the trial deck meta can get past this. There are tricks and works around to get around this card, even in trial deck meta, but I guess we'll mention those later. And those are the only level 4s in this deck that are in the deck. She also has a life burst where if you trigger her, this is a very defensive life burst. If she's been triggered from the life cloth zone, you can return your opponent's Signy to their hand. Obviously, this isn't too good. Just hoping that your opponent has like no life cloth and like you're like, oh cool, trigger this, send your dude back, and next turn we'll swing for game. But most of the time, you don't want this in your life cloth zone. This is better in your deck or in your hand. So that's all of the Signy I believe that I play. So we're gonna go on to spells. So I play 4 copies of Get Bible. Get Bible is like the strongest spell that I can think of right now that exists in trial deck meta. So at a cost of 1, search your deck for any Signy, reveal it, and add to your hand, then you shuffle. This is a white card, which is really good. For 1 cost, you search your deck for anything you want. Anything. Search for this dude to beat your opponent's face in. Search for a guard card. Anything you want. It's so powerful and really good. Combos off. This deck just does so much tutoring when you have 4 Get Bibles. It can even be like in endgame. You have so much energy, you'd be like, Get Bible. Okay, I'm gonna go into, I don't know, I'll go into a turret. Alright, turret's effect. I'm gonna go into this Romeo. So for a cost of 2 energy, you got yourselves 2 cards. It's pretty good. And they're not even 2 really bad cards. They're really good cards. They're gonna be like comboing off the power defense and be really strong. So Get Bible, very good card. Probably remains relevant even past trial deck meta. And then of course the last 4 cards are 4 copies of Knowledge Jet. This is a colorless card and does not have multi-enter. Costs 0 cost to use, so essentially this is card change. When you play this, you draw a card, and if it's a life burst, you enter charge 1. However, you do not want this in your energy zone because this does not have multi-enter, so it can only be used to pay for colorless costs. Not many cards in this deck use colorless costs. The only card that I can find would be Rococo Boundary, this card, which uses 2 colorless costs. So you probably, if these ever were unfortunate enough to end up in your enter zone, you probably want to use them for the Rococo boundary and not use your good white energy for anything else. So that's like the basics of the White Hope trial deck. It's a very basic deck. Let's see. Let's talk about the strengths and weaknesses of this deck, right? So strength, obviously I'm only talking about trial deck meta because, as Sam said, our community is just starting out, so we're only considering trial deck meta right now. So everything is just trial decks, nothing but trial decks all day. So the obviously biggest strength, so much tutor power, right? You've got Avon and you've got Get Bible. Allows you to search your deck for almost anything you want at any time for any situation. So there's essentially like Royal Paladin from Vanguard, except more consistent and with more lollies. Yeah, more lollies. Rococo Boundary is like a really good finishing move, but if you don't finish your opponent's turn off on that turn, then you probably die because you just gave them 2 cards to their hand for free, essentially. You could argue that you denied them 2 energy, but they're getting 2 energy when you break 2 of their life cloth anyway, so there's that. And of course, favorite card, Baroque Defense, is just so good. It's essentially a lifesaver, and your opponent will never know when you have it, right? Because the Rake deck is always face down, your opponent can't look at it, so they won't know that you have the Baroque Defense until you hit them with it, and they're like, okay, I'm about to win for a game, and you'll be like, sure. Then they're like, alright, beginning of attack phase, you're like, cast Baroque Defense. I stun your Rake if you don't have a guard card. Or if you do have a guard card, you'd be like, I stun your Signy. Then they're like, okay, I guess I'll attack. You're like, cool, check. Okay, nothing. And they're like, attack for game. You're like, guard. And they're like, crap, I lost. So obviously those arts are very powerful. The other very powerful thing would be obviously level 4 Tama. And obviously, well, let's just say the ideal field that happens way more often than it should would be something like this, and I guess this. Then your opponent's like, power on your dudes, and you're like 16, 15, 14. This is 14. Alright. So 16, 16, 14. And they're like this, right? They're like, I guess I'll crash. Oh wait, that doesn't work here. I guess I'll attack with my Rake. And you're like, sure, take the free energy. Or if you have like practically nothing, you'd be like, I guard. And they're like, I guess I passed my turn. And you're like, cool, stand. Now swing all your dudes in. And they probably have no field. If they are, they're minusing hard. You're like, attack with Tama. You want guard? Sure. You probably don't have anything to deal with this anyways. So yeah, that's like the basic winning image of this deck. So I guess we'll talk about matchups, right? So out of the first generation trial decks, and even the second generation trial decks, this is still, what I would consider one of the strongest trial decks. It's relevant even into booster meta, assuming your opponent's playing with relatively weak cards from like set 1 and 2. Maybe just set 1. Set 2 is still powerful. So, let's see. Against the red trial deck, they have some removal cards, but most of the time, your dudes will be so big that the removal cards will barely scrape them. They'll be able to scrape your sides and be like, I guess I'll attack you for 1 life cloth, and you'll be like, sure. But that means you just have to manage your life cloth better. So red can do that, and like if they try to rush you, because that's why hurt is a common strategy. Red likes to rush, because if they don't win by like turn 4, they lose. If they try to rush you, you can be like, sure, take all the damage, eat all of it, because you want limit break. You eat all the damage and then just set up your giant field and be like, what? Obviously, it's a problem if they cast the Set on Fire art, the one that kills the entire field. But then at that point, you should probably plan for that and not give them so much energy. Although at that point it's very hard because I think it costs 2 energy, right? Yes? No? At that point, if they did have to set a blaze, then you probably lost. But most of the time, to set a blaze is very heavy cost, and they probably have no cards in their hand by the time they play it because you've probably been killing other dudes. They might have gotten a little momentum in the early game by rushing you, but when you kill other dudes, then they lost a lot of momentum, and you can just tutor all your guys back and be like, yeah, I got get Bible, gotta get some dudes and bash your face. So against the red trial deck, this has an excellent matchup, but then again, the red trial deck has a very weak matchup against almost everything. Against blue, it really depends on the player experience at that point, right? Because think about it, if you're playing against blue, who specialize in discarding cards from your hand, then I don't think you should be showing them your hand, right? Because when you tutor with Get Bible or even Turret, you're showing them another card in your hand that they can potentially pick out with whatever they want. Particularly, Peeping Analyze. Hope that you don't have cards with the same level in your hand, or at least not too many. Also, you might not want to commit a full field. However, you get a very powerful field set up. The blue deck can be like, I can't do anything. Because the essential winning image of blue is that they're supposed to get rid of your dudes before you put them on the field. So if they've been doing that, then you have no hand, and you're like, crap, I lost. However, if they haven't been doing that, you can be like, okay, I set up with Get Bible. I mean, another way to do it would be like, Get Bible, get your dude, and then just play whatever you search immediately, and then just beat face, and hope that they don't have a follow-up to that. So against blue, it's really up to player skill at that point. But I'd say it's about an even matchup with this, just because this deck has so much tutor power. I know Sam will probably disagree with me and say that his is better. Against green, I have not played against green yet, but I'd assume that they don't have many answers to this, this, and this. This is just an assumption. Against, let's see, we've covered red, blue, green. Against black, it's very you're more likely to win because your dudes are so big and you're like, go, go, go. Can't do that. Limit is 11. Go. You're like, go, go, go. However, they do have an answer to this. They have a lot of cards that decrease power. Hold Dark drops one of your Signy's power by 7,000. And it's a good thing white has such a high defense. Otherwise, your dude dies, and then you have an open space for them to swing at. They also have a lot of cards that mill. So obviously, that's a weakness to this deck. You might think, why? Because you can't search what's already in your trash. So if they milled the crap out of you, and it's like, this is your deck, right? And you're like, alright, I'm gonna play Get Bible. And you're like, alright, time to search. And then you realize this is all you can search, and you're like, I guess I'll search a Bonya and shuffle. Or I guess I'll search this and hope you don't kill me. Yes. Milling is a very anti-search strategy in this game. Also allows the black player to inflict a damage to you for no reason. So like, you had like 1 life cloth left. You can even hope for a life burst, because when you deck refresh, this goes straight to the trash. So there's no crush or going to energy. So black is about even, but if you get your things set up, black can find it very hard to fight back, because their cards are essentially the reverse of this. So I guess it's even, and at the same time it's not even. It's hard to describe, right? So that's all of this trial deck meta. I haven't played against blue Request or black Crave yet, so hopefully I'll get results with that. But I have confidence that this is still good against them, maybe. I know black Crave, the new black trial deck, focuses on them forcing battles, and they probably have something that kills your dudes if they're weaker. Because right now, the battle system in WIXOSS is that if you attack with something lower, there's no penalty. Just like in Vanguard, where something lower attacks, it's just a miss. Because you're Aqua Force or something. But yeah, that's all out of this trial deck. And we hope you guys will stay with us for a long time to come. We're a new YouTube channel, Lack of Sack. So this is Phil from Lacking of Sack. Yeah, not much sack in this game. This is Phil from Lack of Sack signing off. See you next time. Please like, subscribe, comment. I love to read comments. Just like Chan. Yeah, Chan. So this is Phil from Lack of Sack signing off. Bye.